I've got the East Baton Rouge, I've got the Natchitoches, and now I'm going to get the New Orleans library card next time I'm in New Orleans.
Sounds good. Well, first things first. Hi, everyone. So I just, as a disclaimer, should say I do work at the New Orleans Public Library, but today I'm off the clock. I'm a cohort member today who just happens to know a lot about the library. I'm not representing the library officially. Just that little disclaimer. I've always been a library nerd and I studied creative writing and filmmaking and didn't get a library science degree. I came to the library in my 30s because I was like, oh, I need a job with benefits in retirement. I need to start building some sort of retirement income and ended up getting a job at the library. And a lot of the stuff I had already figured out because I was a super user, as we say, where you use the library a lot. And I was just obsessed with the website, which some of you may remember was nutrias.org in the past. Now it
Yeah,
is, yes, I knew someone would remember.
I remember.
So the new library website is nolalibrary.org. We also have an app. Um, a lot of people like to extol the virtues of the app, which will keep a virtual version of your card, so you don't have to have the physical version of your card, and there's a lot you can do through the app. I like the website because an app wouldn't work if it had everything that's on the website on it. So for our purposes, we're going to focus mostly on the website today. And I just want to say this is specific to the New Orleans Public Library, but the thing that everyone here should know is that if you live in Jefferson Parish, you have reciprocal borrowing with Orleans and vice versa. And we have a lot of the same apps. So some of the things that I'm going over today will be accessible to Jefferson Parish library card users. If for no other reason, then they can get a reciprocal borrowing with Orleans and vice versa. Now, if you don't have the things that would count as like proof of residence, for instance, if you want to get a library card, is you can bring in a state ID that has your local address in Orleans Parish. You can bring in a passport, but we do need a photo ID to get you a library card. And if it doesn't have your local Orleans address on it, we would need something that we call proof of residence. So a bill that you can either bring in from the mail or you can pull it up on your phone. Or if you're military, faculty, or student, all of those IDs will count as proof of resident. Military IDs, student IDs, and faculty IDs. So let's just start there. You don't have to have a library card to be in the building. You do have to have a library card to check out books and use some of the resources, things like that. And sometimes you have to be in the library building or on our Wi-Fi to access some of these resources, but not very many of them. A lot of them you can just use at home from the website. So first things first, I just want to say, because we learned that the first 2 years of your business, your personal finances sort of count towards your business finances. A lot of us may be in the process of trying to, trim up our personal finances as much as possible, which is what I've been really focusing on. So the library can help you save a lot of money if you're paying for streaming services, for instance. So I just wanted to kind of give everyone an overview of what they can save money on by using the library card as just a user. So you can check out, if you go to the read, listen, and watch, of course, you can, search for physical books and other items here in the catalog. So you can check out movies and DVD if you still have a DVD player, or there's a new place that will actually rent DVD players to you. You can also find them at thrift stores. Also books, comic books, business books, all sorts of books that you might need. There's CDL guides, for instance, if you want to get your trucker's license. There's also the NOLO business books, which are legal guides for business owners. Those are all in our catalog. So if we search the catalog, we can try CDL first for the trucker's guides, the trucker's license guides, and you'll see, for instance, this little logo right here indicates that it's a physical book. And then this is an ebook through one of our apps called Libby. So you can access the book as an ebook on a tablet by checking it out, or you can select availability on the physical item. And you can see that there's a lot of library use only copies at the main library. But if you scroll down, well, this one is only library use, but I know that we have physical copies at branches because I believe we have one at the branch that I currently work at. So you continue to scroll down and you'll see this one from 2019. There's one from 2022. So we probably want to look for that one because it's the newest one. We'll select availability and you'll see that there's a copy at the main library, but it's checked out. Algiers is being held. You can continue to scroll down and see if there's any that are available. This one's on its way back to its branch, and this one is checked in at Children's Resource Center. And then this one is checked out. So you can place a request and have almost all items sent to the branch that's closest to you or that you prefer for your convenience, or you could go to the branch where it's available and check it out. Those are a couple of options. If you wanted to request a copy, you would select place request and you would put in your library, and you can see my library card number here. I'm going to take that out so that nobody uses my library card in order to try to request things for privacy purposes. All right. We are very concerned about privacy at the library, but as far as we know, it's not usually a terribly big issue of people pretending to be you to use your library card. You'll see on our website too, I should have mentioned this red band will tell you about any closures or sudden announcements. So Norman Mayor's closed right now. Maine was closed last week because of the Super Bowl. So you would see that information here and you can click on learn more to find out more. We have this carol that goes by that tells you about different things going on at the library. This is part of our ride and RTA pass program, and a teen is talking about his experiences with it. So these are always really cool to read about, and I always learn a lot from reading these as well. And it's just cool to see how we're serving our community. So we have e-resources here as well, magazines and newspapers. I wanted to show folks, some people really like magazines, right? And they can be really expensive, especially these days. So sometimes you're going to, you'll see here, Shy August is one of my search terms that comes up because she is part of our cohort, and I was searching the catalog to see if we had any library copies of her books. But here, Flipster, you can have this as a little tutorial that will show you how to use these different resources. So you can see that you can get free access to the New York Times, Newsbank, which is local newspaper archives, as well as newspapers from all over the country as well, and then Flipster, which are free copies of magazines. So we're going to put in my library card number so you can see, and as you can see, I have my library card number memorized, but it is a pretty easy one to memorize. So let's say someone is interested in, this actually came up. Someone wanted to look at the Better Business Guide, which no longer has physical copies. Oh, shoot, I'm not remembering the name right. We'll try People Magazine. So you can see People Magazine. Here's the issue right here. You can read now, and I'll show you what it looks like. So you can scroll through the full layout of the magazine. So you can get rid of some of your your magazine subscriptions with your library card, but you can also find information here on, oh, I remember what it's called, Consumer Reports. Especially for us, this might be something that we want to access. So consumer reports can be harder to access physically these days, especially their buying guide, which remains pretty popular, and from time to time we'll get requests for it. So if you select read now, you can flip through and read all the different sections. You can make the text larger. Right here, you've got your little plus buttons. A lot of our apps work like this. So giving you like a little overview of Flipster kind of gives you some tools to access some of our e-resources as well. But there's other e-resources you can take advantage of at the New Orleans Public Library. And let's see, we know Bigby is a parent, right? So something that might help parents with young children is we have story times. We also have apps for children. If you go to use your library, they'll break it down by different age groups. So you'll see early literacy and kids, things that families with young children might be able to take advantage of. Teens, student success, you'll see adults here. And this is one section I wanted to show you guys. So you have adult learning, business and entrepreneurs sections, job seekers, computer help. And then you have other items in the library as well that might be useful for us as business owners. One thing I wanted to show to folks is the request a meeting room process. It all goes through our website these days. So you have to read our meeting room policy. And then at the bottom of that, you'll be able to request a meeting room. And on the request a meeting room page, you'll be able to see a calendar right here and then the branches. And right now, check all is available. But if we just check Algiers Regional, we can see what rooms are available and we can select a date. So let's say we want to do the 27th of February. So this green means that they're available all day, it looks like. So then we could select where we wanted to have a meeting, right? And you can see that it's available. This is your setup and breakdown period, and it automatically puts that in there for you. It lets you know the specs of the room, how many people can use the room, how many chairs there are, what other items are available there, and that this is already built into your reservation is the breakdown time and the setup time. And then you can select request now. Now, you'd have to have a library card number and use your 4-digit PIN number or password to request the meeting room. And it has to be approved. So you can't usually reserve a meeting room on the same day or at the last minute because it needs we need to make sure that it meets the criteria for the space. Most everything that happens at the library has to be free and open to the public. That's one of the practices where we hold that space for the public to access. And you can't, for instance, have a paid, business event at the library. All right. So throwing a lot of information at you, does anybody have any questions so far? And I'm kind of like bouncing around, which was not my original intention. Any questions so far?
I have a question.
Hmm.
I actually tried to book a meeting room a while back for a meeting. So
Hmm.
there's no rooms that like if I wanted to meet with Big B, let's say, that I
Hmm.
could like have a space at the library for that. It has to be open to the public. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's one of our policies, but you might try Jefferson Parish, for instance, because I know that they have like for instance the East Bank Regional Branch, which is on West Napoleon, I believe. It's
Mm-hmm.
a lot bigger and they have private meeting rooms. I don't know what their policy is, but I'm sure it's on their website. There you can come and meet Big B at the library. You're just not, guaranteed a private spot because each branch has like one meeting room, but we don't have this
Mm-hmm.
at pretty much any of our branches for like separate spaces for people to meet. And I just want to say, as somebody whose needs were not met in that particular instance, this is something else I wanted to show you guys. This little chat icon right here. So initially it's AI powered. Don't let that dissuade you. If you click on it, let's say you say, yes, I need help. And then you can say meeting rooms, right? And then it's going to give you the link to the meeting room location. So that way, if you're busy or you're just having like a bad executive dysfunction day, like I have from time to time, where it can be hard to narrow down where you need to go, you can use this to kind of more quickly find what you're looking for. But let's say you wanted to share with us that you needed a space to meet one-on-one privately, and that was a need that you were hoping that we could meet in the future, right? So you already know the meeting room policy, that's not helpful for you. If you say no, it asks, would you like to ask a librarian your question? And if you select ask a librarian, you have the opportunity to fill out your information here. You don't have to put your library card number in, but you can. And this is where you can actually submit comments, complaints, compliments if someone really helps you out, or if you really love your branch, or if, we're not meeting a need that you have, right? We may not be able to address that need right away or ever, but by filling this out, you're giving us statistics, which libraries use in order to provide services to the public. You're giving us, like, we can say, okay, we've had 24 requests for private meeting spaces this month. That's something we really need to focus on, is trying to find private meeting spaces or ways to give that to folks or provide that service. And so sometimes in some cases, if you're like providing a complaint, it might feel like you're throwing your complaint into the ocean, but that's not the case because you're going to hear back from somebody. And while we might not be able to meet your immediate need, at that moment, it provides us information. And I always say too, like, people think of complaining more than they think of complimenting too. So if you ever get really excellent service, it's something to think about, is to like let us know what we're doing well as well, so that we can continue to put resources into whatever it was that helped you. And I will say, for meeting spaces for business owners, there's another spot that you might want to look at. If you look at Use Your Library again and hover here and then go to the Reach Center. Now, the Reach Center is in the Corpus Christi Community Center, right? And I don't know that they have private spaces, but they have co-working space. And every time I've been there, it's been somewhat quiet. It may be a coincidence of the time that I'm going, but you may actually be successful in having a one-on-one session or meeting with someone in that space. So this is the hours of that space when it's staffed, when it's open, and you can contact the Reach Center here. If you wanted to, like, for instance, if we wanted to try to have one of our mixers at the Corpus Center, sorry, the Reach Center at the Corpus Christi Community Center, we could contact them and try to arrange a day that we could have the mixer there. Oh, and it's going to Gmail. All right, so it opens up a communication link for that. And the Reach Center is pretty cool. They have events as well. And so I always like to tell people about it. They also manage the African American Resource Collection, which is housed at the main library. So the staff work at both locations. So if you don't see staff at the Reach Center, they are very well are at the main library. All right. Does that sort of address your question, or do we have any other questions?
Thanks for that info on the Reach Center.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's the thing about the library, right? Like, we may not meet, you come into the library and you have a specific need. We may not be able to meet that specific need at that moment, at that location, but there are very good there's a very good chance that we may be able to address that need in another way or at another time or another location. So it's always worth checking in with us. And then especially if we know that the public, our community that we're serving needs something, we will try. We will often try to see if we can meet that need, but we have to be good stewards of public money. And so we have to try to address maybe like the bigger needs first, or the more easier to address needs first. And that's beyond my pay grade. That's decided by other folks other than me. And we do have a board of directors. And something else to keep in mind is that because we are a public entity, you know, we are very responsive to the public. So I like to show people this as well. If you scroll all the way down to the public, you can find out more about who the library is, so you can see who's in charge of the library, right? These are our mission statements and all of that, but you'll see the people who are in charge of the library here. And if you hover on their name, you can get their email and you can send them an email. They're incredibly busy people for sure. So if you just have like a minor complaint or question, I would definitely suggest to go through the book a librarian chat option, especially if you just need like, one-on-one computer assistance, because you can book that through here. But they are accessible to you, and you can see our strategic plan here. And then you can track the progress of the operational plan, our core values. You can see a retired library employee talking about the New Orleans Public Library. So this is all right here at the bottom. If you had any interest in employment at the library, you could select that here and find out more about the open positions and the employment process. And it's twofold because we are city employees, so you would have to also apply with the city as well as with us. And that's like a whole nother story. But if you know anybody that is interested in employment at the library, this is a good place to send them and all of that stuff. But it's important to know that transparency is a factor of this organization. You can see up here at the top right hand corner, you can create an account online or register online and then just come in with your ID and your proof of residence if you need a proof of residence. So that kind of saves you a little bit of time and paper if you go ahead and register up here. You can log into your account here and you can see your account online. You can renew items. You can see how many renewals you have left. You can request items. You can manage your requests. So if you're going out of town, let's say you're going to go out of town to do a project and you're going to be gone for 3 months, but you're number, like 10 in line for a book that you think may arrive while you're gone, you can actually inactivate your hold so that they don't pop up while you're out of town, and then you still hold your same place in line when you get back. And being a person who worked in the film industry, that's definitely something I figured out as a library user. And like I like to show it to people when I'm showing them how to use their accounts, because it can be really helpful if people are out of town. Now, if you hit the logo, it brings you back to the main page, which I really love to show folks as well. You just have to hit the logo. And then there's a couple other things I wanted to show y'all. Shy August is getting a lot of advertisements since her name keeps popping up whenever I go to the search bar accidentally. Oh, you can also, of course, select a language and Google Translate will help translate the website. That's pretty cool. We do have a lot of our library information in multiple languages, including Spanish, French, and Vietnamese at the locations. So including the application to apply for your library card, one side is in English and one side is in Spanish. So if you know anyone who could use library resources but may not, be proficient enough in English to feel comfortable filling out a registration form, that is a possibility as well. Now, let's see, I showed you guys the user library and how there's different categories for different folks, right? So right here, business and entrepreneurs. So this is, they've collected a lot of our resources that you can find other places on this page. And the Book of Librarian is right here again, which is something you can access through the chat, but it's right here as well. So you can call or text this number if you need help with like specific library resources or a little bit of computer assistance, some smartphone help you can get as well. You'll basically be booking a session with one-on-one with a librarian, and they'll go to the library branch that's convenient for you. They'll be assigned to help you, so they won't have any other tasks on their plate at that moment. We often provide like on the spot tech assistance. When we're at the reference desk, sometimes at the circulation desk, but we often have like 1,000 tasks. So it can be hard to give you dedicated, focused, longer assistance. So Book a Librarian is the best way to approach that if you need that one-on-one assistance. Now you can see right here, there's Business Source Complete, which is a business database. Has abstracts and articles, and it's also archived and searchable. City of New Orleans, business permits right here. I like to show people data axle. It's a little terrifying. It's basically what used to be. And then again, when you're not at the library, you just have to sign in with your library card number. And my computer remembers mine. It's basically the white pages, or the yellow pages, but the white page is part of the yellow pages. You can find out an amazing amount of information with Data Axle, and it's really great for market research. So if you're in that period of your business launch where you need to know like how many coffee shops are in New Orleans, right? You can go to, let's see. So let's try, you can do a search for specific executives or company names, or you can do advanced search. And with advanced search, you have a lot more options. Now, if you ever look yourself up in this, be prepared to be a little terrified about what information is available publicly, but we probably all know that as well. And it's what used to be available essentially in the white pages. Okay, so we're going to select, let's see, map-based or city-state, right? So we're going to search for New Orleans. And we can also try Baton Rouge and add that if we want. Let's see. And then we can add also Metairie. And of course, you can narrow this down as much as you want and only do one of these or that kind of thing. And then we're going to try. All of these are search filters that you can do right here on the left-hand side where you can filter by certain kinds of businesses. And trying to remember. Okay, so we're going to only do verified businesses and we're going to do view results, right? So it's going to pop up a lot because we did multiple cities. So you can then you've got, I'm just giving you a basic search. You've got the executive name, the address, the phone numbers in some cases. If they primarily use cell phones rather than landlines, that's likely to not be available. You can download and print these as well. You can do a heat map. Heat maps are a little bit easier when you're only doing a smaller location. And you can narrow these down a little bit as well. Let's see. And again, it's hard because I want to spend you kind of need to spend a little bit of time with each of these to kind of learn how they operate, and you can get one-on-one assistance to learn more about them as well. So I don't want to spend too much time. kind of going through these because we could do a whole session just on one of these. But you can learn a lot about different cities and the businesses that are available in those cities. Now, if we go back to our businesses and entrepreneur site, you'll see that there's more resources here, of course. And they've collected resources that are available not just through the library, but in the city at large that you have access to. Um, then there's grants and nonprofit organization. You can use the foundation directory online. You have to be in the library for that one. And it does take a little bit of time to learn that one. So I do suggest, and I've recommended this to Big B, that we could maybe even do like a group session where we learn more about data axle or foundation directory from people who are a little bit more versed in them, perhaps at the library, because in the case of foundation directory, we have to be on the Wi-Fi in order to access it. But you've got all of these links right here gathered in one spot for you, um, for entrepreneurs. So that's one thing I like to show people. But if you go to where it says research and learn, right, you're going to find some of the same information in multiple places on our website. So databases here I like to show folks, but you also have adult learning technology and job readiness here as well. There's a section for writers and health and wellness. This is our city archives. They did a big festival last year called Gen Fest that was really popular. They've got a YouTube channel and lots of amazing recordings and programs on there as well. So I like to give them a shout out. Always worth digging into that. Now, if we go to our databases, you're going to see that everything on the left-hand side of this site is provided by New Orleans Public Library. So if you live in Jefferson, you may not have access to some of these, except with your reciprocal borrowing. And then everything on the right is provided by the State Library of Louisiana to all libraries in the state. So you'll see, for instance, a little note for the Ancestry Library Edition. You have to come into the library to use this because you have to be on the Wi-Fi. That's the case. I thought that was the case with ABC Mouse, but I believe you actually can access ABC Mouse with a password. And this is something that you can put your kid in front of and all that kind of stuff because there are games that they can play and they're learning games. So that's another resource for parents with young children. I like to show that one off. Britannica is similar, where it's essentially an encyclopedia with a dictionary and a thesaurus, and it has lots of different articles and information for papers and things like that. And so that's another tool for mostly for kids, but you can see that there's different levels. Creative Bug is videos of different creative crafts that you can look at. So for instance, if you are trying to learn how to make something so that you can sell it in your business, you might find something here that will help you. And so they'll have different advertisements for what's available now, like learning how to fold origami hearts, and you can see what they're advertising, but all sorts of different craft skills. You could look for sewing machine, for instance, and you'll see different videos on how to do different sewing tasks using sewing machines. So let's go back to our databases. We're going to go back to Research and Learn and databases. So over here, and we've got Data Axle, which we already looked at. The fire insurance maps are very, very interesting. And if you're in a real estate related business, that's going to be really helpful and interesting for you as well. But again, we could do a whole session just on that. We've already talked about Flipster. Fold 3 is a feature of Ancestry where you can look up military records. Foundation Directory, which we talked about briefly. Freegal Music is a database where you can stream and download music for free. We also have a local music database called Crescent City Sounds that I'll try to show you guys before we get off the session. And so if any of you are musicians with albums, you can submit your albums to be considered for selection in the Crescent City Sounds, and we're able to give a small stipend to the musicians who allow us to stream their music for our patrons. You've got Gale has a lot of really helpful databases on here. So you've got city and business directories, legal forms over here on the right. Udemy, which is also a video-based skills database. Sorry, yes, that you can use. Lots of really, really helpful things on here. And all of these pretty much require a little bit of time to dig into how useful they are, but you can also request a session to learn more about them. Let's see.
I have a question. When you request a session to learn more about, do you have to make an appointment and they'll sit with you and tutor you one-on-one?
That's probably the best thing to do, but also like if we know that like four of us in this program want to do a session, maybe we could do one collectively or something like that so that we can all learn together. The best thing to do though is to book a librarian so you have that one-on-one assistance. However, if you happen to come by the library and see me or most workers, especially on the reference desk where we may have a little bit more time, it's often easier to show you our screen when we're on the reference desk versus the circulation desk. If you say,
Okay.
I have a question about using this specific database, the person
Yeah.
at that desk will get you started with it. And then depending on their familiarity with that specific database, they can sometimes, kind of sit and give you a little bit more assistance. Booking a librarian is one of the best ways to get someone who's very experienced in that database.
Okay. Thank you. Boy, it's so much to learn. Wow.
Is, and that's the thing, and, thank you for pointing that out because we all get some training on our databases, but of course, there's a lot for us to know, and so some of us may be, more knowledgeable than others, and a lot of times, if we're more knowledgeable, it's because we've taken the time to kinda poke around, when we're sitting on a desk and maybe we don't, have someone to help at that particular moment, or if we've had more training on it. Or if we've used it personally, I think using it personally is one of the best ways for us to learn and become familiar and be able to show you guys. So for instance, I often show people how, and a lot of my coworkers do too, people how to download and use Hoopla and Libby, which are two of our resources that you can download as an app, and you can watch movies, TV shows, read books and audiobooks, comic books, listen to music. That's on Hoopla, and you can put that on a smart TV. We also have Canopy, which is movies. It's going to be like documentaries, classic films, foreign films, independent films. It's not going to entirely replace all of your streaming services, but one thing I like to suggest to people if you're trying to save money, get rid of all your streaming services if you can, and then see how long you can last just watching stuff that's available through the library for free. Take like a 6 month or 3 month sort of like stream, like free streaming like vacation from like paid services and see and just try them out and see what you get into. A lot of the stuff that if you're used to on demand, like, oh, I kind of want to watch this, and I have, parentally like 14 subscriptions to different streaming services, you may not find everything that you want on demand on these, but you can discover stuff that you didn't even know you were into. You'd be really surprised. There's a lot of BBC and PBS things on Hoopla, and we find people all the time who are like, I didn't even know, that this was available, or I really got into this BBC show. So it can be really fun just to kind of be like, okay, let me see how long I can do without my paid streaming services and use library databases and apps. Um, so definitely suggest that. And I just wanted to make sure I pointed out to you guys that LinkedIn Learning is on here as well. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you would have to create one and then put in your library ID, which is NOLA. But there are also thousands of video online training resources here that you can access as well. Mango Languages is a language app that you can use. So if that was one of your New Year's resolutions is to like learn more Spanish or learn another language, you can use Mango Languages for free through the library. Um, North Star Online Learning is going to show you some basic software skills. So if you need help with think I've signed up as a learner. This one is a little bit hard to show in a quick setting, but it's a way of navigating online skills and software skills like Microsoft's different software. So if you need those skills and to learn about that, that can be a really great self-guided way of learning and also assessing where you're at and what you may need help with. So then if you know that you need more help with one specific software, and you want to book a librarian, you can say specifically what you need more help with. And then we can sit with you and work with you on that. So of course, there's a lot more on here. I had some things that I kind of wanted to specifically point out to this group. I think we've covered most of them. I'm looking on the right-hand side now to make sure I didn't leave off anything, but you'll see there's some legal information in several spots on here. If you have any students in your family, including college students and grad school, they can use Homework Louisiana, which includes live online tutoring between specific hours and help with papers and all of that. So if anybody has to go back to school for anything, you can use Homework Louisiana to help you with your papers and prepare for tests and get tutoring assistance. We already briefly talked about these Gale databases, but those are all incredibly helpful as well for learning. EBSCOhost will help you find articles. A lot of students have access to this at college. And so this sort of gives folks who aren't enrolled in a college access to EBSCOhost as well. You'll see Business Source Complete is here as well. And again, we could have sessions, covering just one of these for an hour. So unfortunately, I'm not able to give like a lot more depth in the overview of this, but I just wanted to make sure you guys saw this page, knew how to navigate to it. And once again, you would go back to that nolalibrary.org and you would go to Research and Learn databases, and that's where that state library resources on the right and local library resources on the left is going to be. But you can access a lot of those in different spots on the website, including under read, listen, and watch. You'll see e-resources here. Crescent City Sounds, which I talked about, is here. That's the local music database. So if you do e-resources, it's alphabetical. You can jump to a different letter. And then all of these little green play button icons indicate that there's a little tutorial video that you can watch that will help you navigate that. So I would say start there. If you have questions about navigating things, they're typically very short and you'll learn a lot from them. And then so there are lots of things here. These are generally for more general audiences, but you will find some of the databases here as well. Let's see, do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I have another question. I remember I had gone to the library a while back, and I think I had to print articles and stuff. Do y'all still, I think you have to pay per page. Is that still the way it is?
Yes, it's 15 cents per black and white page and 75 cents per color. Um,
Okay.
I will say that some library systems allow for a certain number of free prints per day.
Mm,
So if that's something that you're used to from another library system or would like us to have, I definitely suggest that you submit a comment about it, because I think those statistics, when they add up, like the number of comments that we've gotten per year about that,
mhm.
maybe we will be able to allow for a certain number of free prints. There are some exceptions. So one of the things that I wanted to show you about was about the events page. If we print something about like library programs, for instance, we will print that for free for you. We will print up to 10 pages of tax forms for free. You can do the instructions, but a lot of times the instructions are more than 10 pages. And so a lot of times what we'll do is if you need a 1040, we'll do 2 copies of the 1040 for you, in case you make mistakes or something like that. Those forms used to be provided by the federal government. They used to mail us boxes and boxes of forms to give out, and they don't do that anymore. So that's one reason why we're able to print those for free. We do fax to I'm forgetting this, the SNAP, like the Office of Youth and Family Services will fax there for free as well. So something to keep in mind, we do have fax. We send but don't receive faxes. Otherwise, other than to that location, there's a 50 cent per page charge for faxes, although we give you a free cover sheet that you can use, of course, as completely as you want, and sometimes that can save you a page. Um, so yes, I was going to say the thing is that we are funded from property taxes primarily. And so we have two millages that support us almost in full. We do have something called the Friends of the New Orleans Public Library that do sales of donated books to raise money for the library, and they all are also participating in the Crescent City Classic this year to raise money. The Friends, I think, pay for almost all of our summer reading programs, which tend to be our
Nice.
yeah. So So we do have some forms of funding other than the millages, but mostly it's property taxes. And the thing I like to explain to folks too is if you live in Orleans Parish, you are entitled to a library card. And with that entitlement comes access to a lot of things for free to you. Other than if you're paying property taxes. But we've had people come in before and be like, I looked and I'm paying like $40 a year for property taxes that go towards the library. And we can tell you how much money you're saving per year once you start checking out things. It'll, of course, just kind of tally what the cost of the items that you check out would have been. And that's not the resources like the databases and all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that we provide that there's just no way of telling you how much money you're saving, or the benefit that you're getting from it. Um, yeah, Orhan, did you have a
Yeah, I do. I know with the East Baton Rouge Parish Library System, now this is regulated to their main branch. You have to go in on the third floor, but they have a entire area that is access to grant portals. They have
Mhm,
subscriptions and it's software. And the name of the software is escaping me, but
mhm.
they have an on-site trainer that shows individuals how to access funders, funding, pass grants, apply for grants, all of those type of things. Does New Orleans have that as well?
We have the foundation directory, and you can of course get that assistance. We don't have like a permanent setup to my knowledge like
Okay.
that, but that is pretty cool. And the thing to keep in mind too is that if you live in Orleans, you have reciprocal borrowing privileges with Jefferson and vice versa. So it's like having access to almost all of the same
Yeah.
resources, regardless if you live in Orleans or Jefferson. But that did bring into mind one of our more popular programs for just for everyone except for Jefferson Parish borrowers. This is just for Orleans Parish library card holders. Is called our I think it's under Library Lanyap over here. It's the Culture Pass, and so this is going to save you a lot of money if you like to go to museums, or if you need to take your kids to the zoo and that kind of thing. So what you can do, you can book, and I like to use the zoo as an example because it's a little bit of an exception. So you can book each of these museums once per calendar month on every adult Orleans Parish Library card. And it allows entry for multiple people. Each museum decides the rules. Audubon is the exception because let's say, okay, let's use Bigby and his wife for an example. If they both have library cards, his wife can book the aquarium and Bigby can book the zoo. But otherwise, if it was just Bigby who had a card, he would have to wait till the next month to book the other one. If he booked the zoo this month, he'd have to book the aquarium next month. And then I know from the Audubon passes, because we have two Audubon passes, the way that one works is it's 5 people of any age, and it has to include the adult who booked the passes. So if you went to book now for the zoo, right? And the other thing I tell people too is that the passes that book the furthest in advance or the most likely to be booked are the Audubon passes on weekends and holidays, like school holidays or during the summer, and also the World War II Museum. I believe because the World War II Museum is one of the more expensive tickets. And if you have folks visiting from out of town, it's a great place to take them. They may want to go see that. So if you look at this, you'll see that the gray means that it's closed. Um, the blue means that it's unavailable because it's been booked. Or I believe it might be otherwise unavailable because of the museum itself. But if you wanted to go this month, if we wanted to go, if 4 of you want to go with me to the zoo on the 27th, right? Then I would put in my library card number and PIN and then book it from there. But I could see that it is available on that day. And you can book up to 30 days in advance, right? So like what I like to tell people is, especially for the World War II one, and there's a lot of amazing museums on here. So, and they don't tend to book out as frequently as the World War II or the Audubon one does, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't check it out. I like to point out the Ogden. It's been I think it was one of our earliest partners in this program, and they have, to my knowledge, they still do. They allow for you to use the Culture Pass tickets for their late night events on Thursdays. It's a really incredible experience because you can listen to music in the atrium, or you can go up, or at least you used to be able to when I did it, go up to like the top floor and you can hear the music come up through the atrium up through the building. And it's just a really cool experience. Some of the museums, like for instance, NOMA, if they have a special exhibit on the first floor, you're going to have to pay an additional fee for that. It's just general entry, but it can still save you a lot of money because it gets multiple people in for free. Now, if we go to the National World War II Museum and go to Book Now, I'll show you. You will see that it is unavailable for the entire rest of the month, right? And then so let's look ahead for 30 days in advance. Every day that can be booked, could potentially be booked, is booked, right? So tomorrow, the next day will pop up and be available, right? Well, we have a little bit of, do we have a little bit of? It's just available because it's not open yet. So you just kind of have to start looking ahead, right? So the next available day, you just kind of have to check every day and see. And if you know people are coming to town, you want to let's start looking 3 weeks before, before their visit, so you can try to book those. There are some things, that tend to be a little bit harder to find than others, and that's a good segue to one of our other Lanyap programs, which is, let's go here to the main page, Library Lanyap, and I wanted to make sure to show you guys this, the tablets, the take-home tablets, right? So this is a program where you can borrow tablets for 6 months, and they work as hotspots as well. It's an incredibly popular program. You'll see the rules here. Now, if you want to see if any of the tablets are available, you can search the catalog right here for tablets, plural. And then you will see this first one right here. If you select availability, you'll be able to see like where they would be available. But you can see from right here, this little snapshot, the local availability, 0 of 127 are available. These are incredibly popular. If you look at availability, you'll see the due dates, and you'll see that in some cases, not so much here, some cases people do keep them longer than they're supposed to. There is a steep penalty for that, so we try to get them back. They can't borrow them again in back-to-back sessions. So they turn them in, we wipe them, and then make them available, and they're first come, first serve. So you have to go to the branch where it says it's available, and we cannot reserve them. So unfortunately, I had to say a lot of negative things about this program because this program is so popular. And definitely like kind of keep that in mind if you know that they're specifically for adult learning. So if you know that you need to do a class or anything like that, kind of take a look at those. And then I just have one more thing I want to show you, but we're getting really close on time. So I wanted to check in with Big B real quick. Can I show everybody one more thing?
Absolutely, go on as long as you like.
Okay, so back on the main page under news and events, you can look at our events calendar right here. You can also subscribe to events emails here, which so you can find out, for instance, all kids programming if you have a young kid, or teens or adults, or at specific branches or regions of the city. But if you go to the events calendar, I really like our calendar. We used to have an awful calendar, and yes, I am on the record saying that, but I really like our new calendar. It works really, really well. So it defaults to like a 2 week period of time based on the first day that you're looking at it. And you'll just sort of see like what's happening that day for anybody of all ages, but you can filter. So if you go back up, you can filter by location, age group, or event type. And you can of course type in, let's say, let's do tax help because I did want to mention taxes. So we partner with AARP volunteers, and they provide free tax assistance for tax season. So if you search tax, and then you can even widen out the scope past Mardi Gras, for instance, let's do the end of March. So you can see all of the tax assistance sessions that are happening in that time frame, right? And you can see what the rules are. We have 2 locations that we do tax assistance at in the library. There are other locations that you can find around town. One of them is appointment preferred. So you have a phone number to call to make an appointment. It's not the library, it's AARP. Um, Walk-ins are welcome only if they have space, if someone doesn't show up for their appointment or if they have an open appointment. And then this year, the Milton Ladder Library, which is the Uptown Library on St. Charles, is first come, first serve. And having worked at Ladder in the past, I know that we put out the sign-up sheet like a little bit before 10 on the front porch, and people line up early before we open. So if you're hoping to be one of the folks on any given day that gets a tax assistance at Ladder, try to get there as early as you can. The front porch is covered, so you'll be in the shade and away from the rain and all that good stuff, but you want to try to sign up on that sign up sheet. Now, here's my favorite part. You can create a brochure right here where it says create a brochure, and you can send it to yourself via email or you download it. And I will often print these for folks if there's specific events they're looking for, because this is something that we can print for you guys for free because it's about library programming. So of course, there's lots of things. I'm sure anybody that might be on the call or sees this call who knows the library might be like, well, you forgot this and you forgot this and you forgot this. There's always a lot that I could cover in this session. But I wanted to kind of give you guys the things that would save you money as individuals and families to help your business, but also might actually help you as entrepreneurs as well. Do we have any final questions? Oh, it looks like Orhan does.
I want to make it's a political statement real quick. Not, I mean, it's, but it has to do with the millage, just to put this out there for people that don't know.
Sure.
So a lot of times we hear this, and recently the new mayor of Baton Rouge, of East Baton Rouge Parish, has announced that he wants to increase funding for the police department, and he wants to look at funding for the East Baton Rouge Parish library system. New Orleans and East Baton Rouge Parish have some of the most amazing library systems in the country. It's important that we know what that millage does and what these libraries do, whether it's New Orleans or Baton Rouge or Alexandria, because like Emily was saying, this funding comes from that. And so many people have no idea what the library systems do. They have no idea what they public service, business service, community service, education, things of that nature. So I'm just saying, next time
Mhm.
somebody comes and talks about what this millage is, explain. Y'all, we've had a chance to spend an hour looking at what one library system does, and she has just skimmed the tip of the iceberg. So support the millages. And when you hear ignorant people that want to take money from the library, so let's make people less intelligent and give it to the police department, which I'm all fine about law enforcement. That just doesn't sound right. So that's what I had. Thank you. Bye.
Well, I was going to say too, if you go into a library, the library staff are prohibited. I know at least in Orleans, and I'm sure this is the case in East Baton Rouge. And if because we went through something similar a couple of years ago, where the mayor of New Orleans wanted to take some of the library funding and attribute it to other funds, right? And without getting too nitty-gritty about it or anything like that or too divisive, I will say that luckily that was voted down by the voters, and then another millage was put back on the ballot the next year before our main millage expired, which is like 60% of our funding. And then the voters voted overwhelmingly for us to get that 60% of our funding. And the important thing to know too is that we do not collect as much money as we could, right? The millages are set at a certain amount, and we usually collect less than what we're allowed by that millage to collect. The city council is what decides how much funding that we get. And so it's important also to pay attention to your local politics if you care about things like this, especially the library or other things, because there are meetings every year, funding meetings, where the city council is deciding the budget, the budgets for the different organizations and departments. And we are a part of the city. So we are, the city council is what decides how much. The director of the library presents a budget proposal for how much money we would like to collect for the next year. But because it is based on property taxes too, when the property taxes went way up a couple of years ago, we had to be sure that we were not collecting at the full value of like what we could, because that would definitely really hurt people. And so we try to be really good stewards of public money. And I will say that I think that our library system and most library systems are probably one of the most transparent and responsive parts of your city government, and that we really do want to get you what you need to the best of our ability. And because we did go through this recently in Orleans, I very much feel for the folks in East Baton Rouge, because they're about to go through what we just went through in 2020 through like 2021, 22. And luckily our millages is set for 20 years, I believe. So we probably will not have another millage vote until 2040s. I don't remember the precise date anymore, but if you live in East Baton Rouge or have family in East Baton Rouge, definitely get them to sign up for a library card in East Baton Rouge. That's one of the best and easiest ways to support a library, because we can then justify whatever money we're collecting based on who we're helping in the community, the number of people that we're helping in the community. So if 80%, 85, closer to 100% of your local community is signed up for library cards, it would be unconscionable to take, funding away from that, right? Because they have a lot of needs and they're telling us what their needs are, and we want to fund those services for the public when they let us know what they need. So, yeah, that's thank you for bringing that up, Orhan. I definitely was aware of that for sure. And just be conscious too that I'm not at work right now. I'm not on the clock, so I can speak a little bit more freely, but I have identified myself as a library worker and a city worker. So whenever I am at work or identified as a library worker, city worker, I am somewhat constrained by like what I can say and how I can say it. So, if you bring this up to a library worker while they're at work, they may not be able to tell you their full and true feelings about what it is you're talking about. Does anybody have any other questions or thoughts?
I think you covered
Okay.
everything in fantastic detail. It was a great workshop, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for joining today. I will have this up on our Flight YouTube in the next couple of business days. If you do not follow us, check out Flight's YouTube channel. We are trying to put as much of our video content on there going forward, or at least as much as people will let me put on there. So thanks everyone.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye.